welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, and as always, I have a very special guest for you, Debbie Louis, who's the CEO of DIY Bride and Alamode Events. She'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV.
Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered.
Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, sitting here with Debbie Louis, CEO of DIY Bride and Alamode Events. Debbie, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here, a young lady, entrepreneur.
Yes.
Owner of 2 businesses.
2 very tiring but enjoyable
2 businesses.
Yes.
That's amazing. So props to that. There's a lot of people who can't even manage one. So to have 2 simultaneously running.
Yep.
I definitely have to say shout outs to that. So let's get straight into it. Let's talk about how this all got started for you, because we know a lot of people kind of want to know the crux of how you even get started. So what's your story?
So I did my first wedding when I was 5 years old. I was the flower girl.
Okay.
So, the interest peaked from there. And I just started putting together small things for like family and friends from the tender age of 13. And eventually, as I went through school, I knew that I always wanted to do something else. Mm-hmm. So it just stemmed out from there, and it's been going ever since.
So DIY Bride was your first company?
Alamode Events was the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you actually went with the event planning first?
Yeah. And then I picked up on DIY Bride just this year, 2016. And it's been growing, and it's been great so far.
So let's talk about Alamode Events. It's kind of self-explanatory, but you never could tell. So let's give us some of the details for everyone to know.
So it's primarily wedding planning and designing. So we do a lot of styling of events, of weddings, corporate events, and we pick up on every single detail, and we make sure that every client that we have is comfortable and happy, and their expectations are met once they booked us. Yeah.
Once they actually book. So basically, when someone comes to you, client, you do an analysis. I'm sure you kind of sit with them. Kind of bring us through that process, because a lot of people don't know. They've never actually went through one of these sittings, and you always hear about event planners. So kind of what's the day in the life? Like, what's the first step from the client's aspect and from your aspect as well?
Well, the client has something that they need, right? Mm-hmm. And they more than likely, when they come to someone who's a specialist in that area, they want someone to execute it and make it fun or make it really beautiful. Mm-hmm. So once they express their needs, then, I take them through this unique process, and I kind of create a binder for each client that I have. And they get to interact and put their details in it, and I put my details in it as well. So just to make it a complete package and make sure that they're happy. And, it can take anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks to finalize majority of the details, and then we get to planning from there.
Okay, so what's that initial phase called?
It's just preliminary.
Preliminary.
Yeah, it's just preliminary.
Gathering of the info, going over the concepts.
Yeah. So I like to tell my clients it's like a meet and greet. So I meet you, I greet you, we kind of figure out what you want, and then we take the preliminary steps.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's been pretty interesting, because you've done a lot of weddings, you've done a lot of corporate events. Anything memorable that's really stood out for you so far?
I can say the weddings that I've done so far for 2016, including my company planned my own wedding. So that was very, very interesting. Thank you. And it was a handful, because we have a lot of people that played their role in there. So, just making sure that every detail was perfect up until the last wedding that I did about a month ago. So, and that was really, really big. There was like 300-400 people. So it was exhausting, but it was fun because the bride and groom definitely enjoyed themselves, and the guests just had a phenomenal time.
Which is always important. That's always one of the key factors that, of course, everyone's looking to have when your role is to kind of take away that stress.
Exactly.
Which is what when I worked with different event planners, my goal is just take what's in my head.
Yep.
make it a reality and let
Exactly.
me step away and handle everything else. What about those shows like Bridezilla? And because when somebody's wedding, it's the biggest day of somebody's life, technically.
Definitely.
Or one of. And there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things that go into it. So how do you deal with clients who could obviously be very difficult, working, they want a lot for very little?
Yeah, that happens a lot. That happens a lot. I just met with the bride last week, and I had to let her know that I am here to take the stress away from you and meet all of the needs that you can't meet on an everyday basis. So once I lay that foundation out and we have that initial conversation, then it's like smooth sailing from there. But at the same time, I let my brides know that this is what I can do for you and this is what I can't do for you.
That's good.
You know, so they'll automatically know, okay, she's not going to do this. And I'll reiterate it once or twice, because sometimes if you write it down, someone will read it. But if you say it again, they're like, okay, I understand. She said she's definitely not doing that. But majority of the time, I take care of everything for my brides. You know, but if people if they want a lot for less, then I will, give them other suggestions for other people who can help them in that area.
And that's good, and that's something that you have to factor in because we're all working on budgets. Of course, finances are a big aspect of it. You know, little details like that you have to understand. You know, money is important. You may not be able to get these flowers, but you can get comparable flowers that look just as nice.
Exactly, and that's the thing, giving them options. So I like to give my brides options. I like to work it out with them, and if they absolutely can't deal with what I have or settle for the lesser amount because they're on a tight budget, then, we find other options. And they completely appreciate that, right? If you work with someone and you tell them, hey, you can't go with A, but you definitely can go with B, and you show them how B looks, they'll definitely take it. Especially if it pops and it makes them feel like I'm walking into a fairy tale. I'm walking into exactly what I wanted, exactly what was in my head. So they love that.
Funny point. Have you ever had to fire a bride or fire a client? Because I always say this is one of my favorite lines, not all money is good money. You don't always, sometimes it's not worth the headache, and I would just not take on your campaign. I work in advertising, and sometimes it's just, I will not take you on. It's just better for me to not.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely had to fire a bride. I felt bad about it because it was a friend of mine. But, she wanted a lot for less. And if I felt as if I did it for her and I already gave her a discount, then I would have to do it for all my brides because her wedding was more work, so maybe I should be charging less. But, I just had to fire her and I felt bad because it was a tough time. But it was the best thing that I could do for my company and for the people that also work with me, just to make sure that they don't go through the stress of having to do all of that for less pay.
And of course, one of the things that if you do it one time or you do such a big sacrifice doing that, you actually devalue it because now you set a bad precedent.
Exactly.
By doing that. Yeah. So I kind of understand. That's why I asked, have you had to like poke that fire and just be like, you know what? We're not going to do this one.
Yeah, and it feels bad when you have to fire a bride, but if you know the value of your work for any entrepreneur, then you definitely will say, okay, I did the best thing for me. I did the best thing for this company and for the employees. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Well, hold that thought. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, sitting here with Debbie Louie, CEO of DIY Bride and Alamode Events. So, Debbie, let's talk about this time DIY. Okay, DIY Bride. Definitely, we went into Alamode Events, and you know how you're really an integral part of that. Of course, being that was your first
company,
enterprise, first company. So let's go into DIY Bride.
So DIY Bride was acquired this year, and it started out as a blog about 12 years ago, and it's just been growing ever since. And we have some amazing things coming up for next year, just to bring the DIY brides to life, as well as the DIY grooms, and transitioning into the newlywed phase. So it's like a whole like compilation of pre-marriage into marriage, like how to keep it going, and fun recipes and fun things to do. And a lot of the brides that we find in this day and age, like, they're on a tight budget for their wedding. So the weddings, on average, they used to be around 15 to 20,000, and now they're just going up. Like, the average wedding now is probably like 30 or 35,000. So we have brides that just try to do certain things and then outsource and hire for other things. So that's how that came up.
And that's pretty interesting. And, of course, DIY is do-it-yourself. So it's do-it-yourself bride.
Yeah.
So what is at the core of DIY Bride right now?
What is at the core? So I can say, just finding those women who definitely want to put their stamp on their own wedding. They want to make sure that they can look back at the pictures and say, I did that. And just enjoy that, So being able to show them exactly how to make a flower centerpiece, how to make a flower wall, how to make your own sweetheart or love table really stand out so you can sit in your seat and enjoy it. That's one of the biggest things that we find that our brides like to do. They range in ages from 24 and up, but everyone loves to do something, have an integral part of their wedding with them putting their hands in a pot in some way. They pay for other things, but they want to create something that they saw online or they saw on Pinterest, and they just want to make sure that, it comes to life.
Absolutely. And, of course, it allows you to recreate, if not just one aspect, all aspects, if you want to be involved in it. Like you said, a lot more people are trying to not downsize their wedding, but just kind of really keep it more intimate, affordable.
Yeah, cost effective.
Exactly. Yeah. So with DIY, that would be your best bet.
Exactly. So we look to make sure that people stick into their budgets for their weddings, and we do it mostly with decor. And we also offer preferred vendors to them, preferred vendor list, where they can, tap into that market in that area for people that are affordable and that can do great work and make sure their wedding comes to life.
So, from your professional expertise, what has been the most expensive part of a wedding? Some people say it's the reception portion of the meals, because it'd be like $70 a plate, up to $100 a plate,
up to $250.
Up to $250.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen different ranges of it.
Yeah.
So, what's the best way? Any tips for brides and grooms who are future brides and grooms who are looking to plan and want to do something for a large family? They're on a budget. How do you do that?
So I know a lot of people don't like it, but buffet would save. A buffet style would save in that area, especially if it's a lot of people. It's just a way of managing it, but that's when you would hire a professional, like an event, day of coordinator or event planner, to manage the day of, to help that process speed along. And I also find that a lot of photography and videography is kind of pricey as well. So finding the right videographer and photographer that can give you a good package, maybe, getting one company to do it, that would help as well. Because they give you a bundle deal if you do a photography, videography combo in one company. Yeah.
So when you started DIY as a blog, 12 years ago, you said that was just a blog that you were doing. What were some of the initial blog topics?
Well, it was a lady who started it about 12 years ago, and she was just trying to initiate a lot of people in doing their own little projects at home, and it wasn't really focused around brides who just, are about to get married, but it was just focused on people who probably were already married, and she had recipes and little knickknacks and how to make them and put them together. And then she started creating books, and then eventually, she surpassed that time with her market, and she decided to sell the company to someone who can bring some new innovative ideas and just be very, very hands-on and creative with the new market that's coming out, because